Culture war battles are now being waged in meetings of community school boards, and the fights are getting personal. In a recent op-ed in the Washington Post, one Florida school board member detailed the harassment and violent threats made against her and her family. Jennifer Jenkins says that she has been singled out because she is a Democrat with progressive views on transgender rights who supports school mask mandates. She joins us now to talk more about her experiences. Thank you so much for joining us. When I read your op-ed, like every paragraph, I was gasping. I can't even believe you're actually staying on the board, because it's not like it's some sort of high-paying position. I don't even know if it's a paying position. So let's talk about it. You know, we mentioned that you were a Democrat, but this position has nothing to do with political leanings. It's supposed to be a nonpartisan role that you're playing here. You say that the protests began with the formation of a group called Moms for Liberty. In fact, and you call them in your op-ed a purported grassroots organization. So I was curious as to why you use that phrasing. And can you tell us a little more about the group?
Yeah, absolutely. I can tell you, about that group from my perspective. I defeated a well-known Republican incumbent here in our county, and she didn't take that loss very lightly and went off to co-found Moms for Liberty. And when it first started, it didn't really have a common theme for them to attack. Masks were always a part of the conversation, but when they would come to our meetings, I really refer to them as Moms Against Jennifer Jenkins. They were personal attacks, sending postcards to my home, insulting me, calling me a socialist, calling me a Marxist, making it very politically focused. And that just grew and grew. They are a purported grassroots organization, like I said. And what I mean by that is, they claim to be joyful warriors. But if I shared some of the things that they've said to me, that would completely counter that argument right away. And they claim to be parents who have solutions to problems, want to come help problems. But all I've ever witnessed is a bunch of parents coming to find problems and create problems and stir chaos and disrupt our meetings until they get exactly what they want and that everything aligns with their views and their opinions.
So Jennifer, I'm curious, how active has the members of the community and the school board been in recent years? In other words, I'm just trying to get a good understanding of a timeline on when people and parents started to be so active in these types of meetings when it comes to issues facing their children. Because I'm way older, but I just don't remember my parents going to anything. It was like parent-teacher conference.
Exactly.
Nope, right? Parent-teacher conference, no problem. If it has something to do with Vlad talking too much in school, I'm going to meet with the teacher and figure out how to fix that. But, they didn't attend these meetings where they debated what was being taught or the kinds of lessons that I was being exposed to. So is this recent, or has this school board always been fairly active?
So I have to say, the parents in Brevard County are, have been very active in their schools. They support us tremendously. We rely on their volunteerism. We rely on them being part of our PTO. But when it comes to, sitting in these school board meetings, no, absolutely not. Typically, I have a joke with our superintendent. When am I going to get one of these meetings where we talk about broken air conditioners for the entire time? Typically, they're pretty boring. And we go over basic operations and policies, and we can actually do our jobs and govern. This is obviously a statewide crisis. It's becoming a national crisis where these organizations are, coming to the table, again, just to cause controversy and chaos and bringing conspiracy theories about CRT in the schools. No, it's a totally different kind of involvement. And again, that's where I say this involvement is just there to cause chaos. It's not to solve problems.
I think that we have to make it clear sort of the kind of stuff that you are enduring, because we're talking about people showing up at your house, saying things to your 5-year-old child, calling the equivalent of, well, somebody did. We don't know who did it, but calling the equivalent of Child Protective Services on you. This is, to me, as I was reading this stuff, I thought, isn't this criminal behavior? I don't know. Have you reached out to, law enforcement about this?
Yeah, Absolutely. When the things were starting and, I was being attacked, unfortunately, I had already quickly been desensitized to what was happening to me. I uh, felt kind of funny as just like a regular person calling to complain about somebody, driving past my home. I just assumed there was really nothing they could do about that. But our local law enforcement here in Satellite Beach has been fantastic when it came to that DCF claim. They're investigating it. They are being very responsive to every little thing that's happening when they were vandalizing my home. It's been challenging. It's been difficult. I'm in talks with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement, the state level law enforcement agency, and I'm thinking about going further at this point because there are some things that are pretty twisted and pretty deep that I need some support with.
Jennifer, I cannot imagine. I mean, targeting your 5-year-old. I mean, what parent who claims to care about what is happening in a child's school would subject a 5-year-old to any kind of treatment at all? How are you explaining what's going on to your child, and how do they feel about what's going on? I cannot imagine as a 5-year-old. And I see you've got a cat, which you're in good company. We're all cat owners here. What are you? I mean, how are you? What kind of conversations are you having with your child about what's happening, and how are they feeling as they just go about their daily life?
So, I mean, you say something that I've been saying to everyone, an organization that, prides itself on parental rights. I can't say that it was their organization by any means, but they have inspired people in the community enough to think it's okay to attack mine, to come into my home and threaten my rights with my own daughter. And that is more than frustrating. She's 5. She just turned 5 in August. She is not necessarily completely aware of what's going on. She's been kind of shaded from all of it, but the last protest that was here got pretty loud and intense, and she was home for that. And she was outside. She followed me outside. I've been instructed by law enforcement to record when they're here. And she said, Mommy, what are these people doing here? And I was honest with her. I said, baby, that mask you're wearing, not everybody wants to wear that. Keep people safe. And we stood outside for a while. She wanted to play bubbles. I said, I'm not going to make you go inside and change your life because these people are, infringing upon our daily lives. And she asked me, Mommy, why are you still being kind to these people? So it was a really good learning moment for her. That night, though, they didn't leave until about 8:30. And when I was doing bedtime with her, she asked me, Mommy, when are these mean people going to leave? And she still asks me that like once or twice a week. But she doesn't seem impacted by it or anything, but it absolutely impacts me as a mom.
What I sort of don't understand is, the school board is actually, as far as I can see it, pretty receptive to what they're hearing from parents. You just had a school board meeting about the mask mandate. You voted in favor, the board voted in favor of extending the mask mandate, but giving parents the option, right, of if they're really that upset about it, that their kids don't have to comply. It was a heated conversation from what I could see, but people respected everyone's personal space. And I'm like, this is how a school board is supposed to work. Why elevate things when you're sort of getting what you want? And I'm curious about other members of the school board. They're not getting this kind of treatment. So I'm wondering, what they're saying about the way you're being treated, whether or not at any of these school board meetings, any of the other board members have, stood up and said, wait a minute, we don't act like this. I mean, what are you getting from the other school board members?
So there's kind of 2 layers there. So, our last school board meeting was pretty tame compared to what we've had. And it's probably because of that parental opt-out piece, which, wasn't something that we just did to make people happy. It was based off of our county transmission rate. So we were basing it off of science and just doing what was best for our community. But most of our public comments then shifted to a totally different conversation to be angry about. When it comes to my other school board members, I have one that has been, there's 5 of us total, one who has been extremely, extremely responsive to me The superintendent has been incredible. He will come to my home and make sure I'm okay. I can't say the same about everybody. It's been challenging. It's been challenging to not feel completely supported. There was a video that had gone viral of me speaking at one of our school board meetings, and the reason I had decided to speak that night was because I was almost basically forced to. My school board members, some of them proposed adopting a resolution from the Florida School Board Association that basically denounced the Department of Justice and the U.S. federal law enforcement agencies to come in and investigate things and threats and harassments that are happening to school board members. And I felt like that was a direct slap in the face of me, the only person on that dais who has faced anything like I have.
So ultimately, Jennifer, what would you like to see happen? I mean, my guess is that you're going to continue to express yourself and to express your views on this board. It is part of your responsibility to do so. We live in a democratic society where everybody is free to do exactly what you are doing, and people can protest you as long as they do it respectfully and without, what seems to have become less of a protest and more of something directed personally at you and your family that seems to be hateful.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm not against people expressing their First Amendment rights. I personally don't even care if they're, outside my home on a public sidewalk. I think it's silly and I think it's useless. I mean, it's not going to sway me at all. You'd think that they would learn that by now. But the things I'm against is, staying here till my daughter's bedtime, to when the cops leave to start brandishing weapons in the parking lot behind my home, to call my neighbors obscene things, call them pedophiles, to tell my daughter that, watch out for your mommy, she hurts little children. Those are things that's not a peaceful protest, just because you're maybe not shouting it or whatever. The thing that's hard for me is, it is personal. I have a state house representative that is attacking me multiple times a day, who had the audacity to bring the governor here and have a press conference just to give himself a platform to say that there's a special place in hell for me, taking advantage of an alleged situation that happened in our county. And so, it's really tough for me. And I'm not going anywhere. It's not who I am. I'm going to continue to do what I got to do. But I just hope that, at some point these temperatures get turned down, or the people who are doing these things to me are finally, held to justice and held responsible. And I am doing everything in my power to make sure that happens.
Yeah, toning down the temperature, dialing back the temperature would be nice. It seems that, that in recent years, things have gotten to the point where people can't even be respectful of another's views or another's ideas. It would be nice just to, your neighbors. I mean, the people, the parents who are part of the community that you serve are neighbors, and you're supposed to look out for your neighbor. Thank you, Jennifer.
How about, Vlad, display the same level of respect and courtesy that we expect our children to display as well.
Yeah,
basic stuff.
I mean, it's basic things that you teach a child. The first time that I called a kid a name in school, or a kid called me a name, I mean, the parents immediately, pulled the two of us aside, my parents and their parents, and we got a tongue lashing about how you treat each other and how you treat your classmates, even if you don't, get along with them. And it's just so, that's why, I'm not a parent. As Anne-Marie always says, I could write a book that says I'm not a parent, but so I don't know the things that, that young people go through today in school. I can only use my own experiences as a kid going through school. And so that's why sometimes I'm glad that you were on, Jennifer, so I can ask these questions, because there are probably a lot of people like me too who are struggling to understand why things have become the way that they have, why it feels as if things are so broken when, those of us coming up through school didn't seem to have these issues the way that we have them now. And it's not to say, my sense is that there have always been hot button issues that have existed in this country. That's not new. I'm sure back in this, in the time that I was in kindergarten and first grade, the Vietnam War was still raging. I gotta believe that there were some parents who were anti-war, and there were some parents who, felt that what we were doing in Southeast Asia was the right thing. And yet it didn't come to what we have right now, in your school district and so many others across the country. So I really do hope that people remember that golden rule. Jennifer, thank you so much for spending some time with us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, now to something different. Several military families are helping Afghan